Hi everyone, welcome to E-commerce Success by At360, the channel that makes business owners happy, productive and successful. Today we're going to review some stats about abandoned carts, add to cart rates, conversion rates. This is a follow-up on yesterday's video where we reviewed a post from Reddit where someone shared some statistics about their advertising and they asked how they could improve their results. And so we discussed some typical conversion rate, click-through rate, and abandoned cart rates. And so today I made more research on this topic and I found a couple of very interesting studies with a lot of stats, and they're very well thought, nicely presented. And so I figured I'm going to share them with you and hopefully get as much value from them as I did today. So if you enjoyed these videos, please smash the like button, comment below and subscribe to the channel. This is going to take only a moment for you, but it's going to make a massive difference for us to help make this channel more visible so that YouTube suggests these videos to more people and we can help them. That'd be super good. So thank you very much. This video is brought to you by At360. At360 is the easiest way to increase your sales in Shopify by managing all your ads in one place, including retargeting, which we discussed at large yesterday and the day before. And if you stay until the end of the video, I will tell you also how you can increase by more than 35% your conversion rate. And I will also explain how retargeting can help you bring back more than 25% of your visitors to your store. So that should help you massively increase conversions. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So I found a couple of studies. I will put the link in the description below. So the first one is a study from Sales Cycle. It's a very thorough study with 61 pages. So I've selected only a few slides that I'm going to share with you today. But feel free to read the extensive studies. It has also some analysis by sector, by vertical. So you'll find even more precise figures for your particular business if you dig a bit in the study. So these are typical add to cart rates. So if you remember yesterday, the person on Reddit had something between a 4 and 4.5% add to cart rate. And that's actually an average number for desktop globally. If we look at the UK, it's much higher for some reason. This study says in the UK, the add to cart rate is 17%. Now that's a bit surprising to me. I'll try and find other studies if I can, comparing different countries to each other, because this figure seems a bit high from me. So without more data to back this up, I'm a bit suspicious about this figure. But it could mean that UK is fantastic for online business and e-commerce. So if you have an online business in the US, you should definitely consider also maybe shipping worldwide and measure what sort of outcome you could get versus the shipping costs. So that could be an interesting way to expand your business. Now let's get back to the figures. So you see some differences. I'm mainly going to comment the global figures, which in most cases are close to the US ones. But if you want to take a deeper look by yourself in the study, again, the link will be in the description. So what's interesting as well is you see mobile and tablet have a much higher onto cart rates. So it's almost 9% for mobile and 8.3% for tablet. So mobile and tablet people add to cart a lot more frequently, like almost twice as much on tablet and a bit more than twice as much on mobile. So that's very interesting, but we'll see a bit further in the video that actually mobile people tend to convert less. So in average, you're not going to get more sales from mobile, but that's to take into consideration. And at the end of the video, I will show you a study which explains maybe why some of these add to carts aren't converting as well on mobile. Okay, now let's look at conversion rates. So you see the global average conversion rate is 1.98%, so almost 2%. So usually in these videos, to simplify calculations, I frequently use 1% as a rule of thumb, basic calculation figure. But maybe from now on in these videos, I will use 2% because that seems to be the global average conversion rate. On desktop, it's close on mobile with 1.8%, so it's a bit lower. On tablet, it's much higher, 2.9%. So that's super interesting to note. Tablet doesn't have a lot of traffic compared to mobile and desktop, but these convert almost 50% more frequently than desktop and mobile. So that's very interesting. And so thing to note, keep in mind, if you test your website on mobile devices, you should as well make sure it shows up nicely and cleanly without errors on tablet. You wouldn't want to miss these almost 3% conversion rates from tablet visitors. Okay, let's move on a bit. So we have more, so these are average stats for the retail industry. So yesterday we talked about the average order value. I didn't give any stats. I didn't have really one in mind. And of course, this depends a lot on the industry. And there is a more specific slide down the road. But as an average, so it's 231 pounds, so British pound, as the average order value. So that's interesting. And you see here the average abandoned cart figure, 77%. So yesterday I said 75. So yeah, it's about 3 out of 4 people who add to cart leave without making the purchase, without following through. So that's quite interesting. What can we note from this is this average order value is much higher than the order value we got yesterday from the person on Reddit. They said they had one sale at £25. So, and I told them one way of making ads work is not necessarily bringing the cost of ads down. It could also be increasing the revenue by selling more products, selling higher value products, upselling, and things like that. And so here you have a specific figure that goes in that direction. Average order value, £231. So if you pay $20 or £20 to get someone on your website, but you're netting 230 in return, that's much better than if you only get 25, right? So that's super important to keep in mind. Now, a few interesting figures on conversion rates by month, and you'll see we have by hour in the day and a few more stats like this, which are interesting. So of course, November, December are much higher than any other month of the year. That's because of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the holiday period. But then you have like March, April, May, which are also higher than the rest of the year. That's quite interesting. So just to keep in mind, of course, this is very dependent, I think, on the type of business and the industry you're in. But if you want to know if it's normal to have like a January, which is like twice lower than December, that's actually normal if you look at these average figures. Okay, let's look at conversions by day. This is also very interesting. We see the best days on Monday and Wednesday, with Tuesday, Thursday, Friday being a bit lower, not too far below, but Saturday and Sunday are much lower than these. So Monday and Wednesday are above 15%, so yeah, a bit more than 15%, whereas these are at 12%. So it's not a huge difference, but still 3% difference if you consider massive sales amounts. That could be a big amount of money. So to our advertising specialists out there, that's something to consider if it's verified for your business. Again, these are just average figures for a lot of industries, a lot of businesses, so you have to verify if it stands for your business specifically. If it does, that's reason enough maybe to reconsider the daily amount of budget you spend on advertising. So if conversion rates are much lower on Saturday and Sunday, it could be worth it to reduce the budget on these days and increase it on Monday and Wednesday. Just something to keep in mind. On Google Ads, for example, you can do that with bid adjustments as well. So that's something that could be taken into consideration. Okay, and here we have the conversion rates by hour of the day. So you see the maximum here is around 8, 9, 10 in the morning. Okay, it significantly increases starting at 6 a.m. and then it's pretty flat for the rest of the day. Between 11 a.m. and 8, 9 p.m. it's on a slight downward trend. So the earlier in the day after 8, basically the best, and then it just goes downhill from here the rest of the day, but moderately, and it sharply falls after like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., then 11, and then the rest of the night is pretty bad in terms of conversion rates. So again, things to keep in mind. That's an interesting stat to look at. So if you're converting 3 times as much during the day compared to the night, you should really consider maybe reducing advertising budgets after 9, 10 and starting them again at, between 7 and 8, or use bid adjustments or another method like this to take that into consideration. Okay, so earlier we saw that the add to cart rate was much higher on mobile, and we see here also mobile traffic nowadays represents 67% of the traffic. So 2/3 of the traffic is actually coming from mobile, and they add to cart more frequently, but because they have a lower conversion rate, you see that desktop sales are actually still much higher than mobile sales. Not that much higher, but compared to the traffic, it means that they're converting 2 times more frequently, or maybe 2 times as much in value. So the average order value also might be different from mobile than desktop. So that's quite interesting. So desktop still represents the majority of the sales, even though mobile has 2/3 of the traffic. That could be also due to the lower conversion rate or conversion amount in mobile could be due to a bad experience on the website. That's something we're going to discuss at the end of the video. I have a second study which shares some stats about why people abandon carts, and it's very possible that the bad experience on mobile is actually costing you a tremendous amount of money, because a lot of these people are not converting, not because they don't want to, just because the experience is bad on mobile compared to desktop. Okay, so average order value. So you see here you have average values for mobile and desktop. So they're actually pretty close compared to what I had in mind. I think I read a different study with different figures. So again, don't trust just one source of data. It's just a pointer to have a reference number in mind, but it's always good to cross-check and have different studies, look at different figures from different sources to have a more refined opinion. And then of course you have to verify if that stands in your day-to-day business for your particular product and your particular targeted audience. Okay, let's look at a couple more slides. So this one I liked a lot because you have more specific figures of for the abandon rate by vertical. So depending on your category, see gardening 80% abandon rate, retail 76%, telco 94%, so that's quite a lot. So depending on what you're selling, you can have more specific figures here. And lastly, you also have by category. So you see here on the blue bars, you have the category name. So in blue, you have the sales volume, and in green, the green line is the average order value. So here it's interesting. For example, if we look at office supplies, it's around maybe between 50 and 100 in average order value. If you look at something like retail, we're above 250. So depending on your industry, here you have more specific figures to compare what your average order value is to what it should be. And if it's below, you should reconsider your products, maybe your prices, your checkout experience. And I gave a few tips in yesterday's video to try and upsell customers. Okay, let's look very quickly at this second study. This is from Baymount, which is a research institute. I put the link as well in the description below, so you can read it in more detail. But I just wanted to comment this chart here about why users abandon the carts. So we saw that depending on the industry and the device, basically rates are about 3 persons out of 4 which abandon their cart, and that increase in mobile. And so here are the response. So the first one, 49% of people abandon because there's an extra cost which is too high. So shipping, tax or fees or something like that, which they didn't expect. And so is that something that you can fix? Maybe by providing more clarity upfront on what's an expecting shipping rate, or some website put free shipping up to a certain amount of from a certain amount of sales. So that's a way to, reduce uncertainty. And then taxes, fees, maybe, if you have additional fees which were not disclosed upfront, maybe try and, make a test to see if you put these fees right in the beginning. Maybe it's going to help reduce abandon rates. Second reason is the site wanted me to create an account. So 24%, so that's quite high. So I know nowadays what most websites do is, if you don't have an account, they won't take you out of the checkout process so that you could create an account on a separate page, because that's very disruptive. And, it could mean a lot of people do not come back to the checkout process, or they don't find their account anymore, or it makes it super complicated. So what you can do is you merge the account creation process with the checkout if it's the first time they check out. So when they give you their details, the name, email, address, you use that information to create an account for them. And if they already have an account, you just put something at the bottom where you say already have an account, sign in instead. So I see this more and more frequently. I think that's the reason why. It's because you don't want to have a separate workflow that interrupts the checkout process. Or otherwise you might be losing 1/4 of your conversions. Okay, so you'll notice these figures. So the sum is more than 100%. It's just because I think people could respond multiple choices in this survey. So delivery too slow, almost 20%. Too long, complicated checkout process, almost 20%. So that's something you could definitely improve. So if you have a long and complicated checkout process with a lot of information asked, consider making it simpler and quicker, and you might gain 1 in 5 conversion. That's pretty high. I didn't trust the site with my credit card info, 17%. So that's quite high. And you say I didn't trust the site. So why is that? Maybe coming from a lack of brand awareness. Maybe the site doesn't look very professional. And I made a dedicated video on the favicon. And I said not having a favicon on your website is the #1 red flag that, tells people, okay, this site is not professional, finished, or very serious. And so you should pay attention to these details to make sure people trust your website and trust it with their credit card information. Okay, another one about, couldn't see calculate total order cost upfront. So this again, 17%, that's quite significant. You could gain that if you make the process more transparent and more easy to understand. So it's a lot about information management and making sure the information is clear and easy to understand. Website had errors, crashed 12%. So that's unacceptable. You should do thorough testing on your website, make sure there's no problem, test it on different devices, different browsers. You can't lose like 1 in 8 conversions because the website has technical errors. So thankfully nowadays with platforms like Shopify and WooCommerce and other platforms like that, I think you'll have less and less people that have a bad infrastructure. But still, you should make sure that what you did in your website, especially if you added a theme and many apps, you should make sure there's no problem and it's quick to load and it won't crash. Okay, then we have return policy wasn't satisfactory at 11%. So I think that's something you can work on. And then there weren't enough payment methods, 7%. Again, on Shopify, I think now you have Shop Pay and you have more processors that you can easily add, even crypto payment processors. Apple Pay and Google Pay and other payment processors. So that should be something to consider. And lastly, credit card was declined is 4%. So not sure if you can do a lot about this one, but you'll see there are many more above that which have very high percentage of reasons for cart abandonments that you can work on or improve or help alleviate. And lastly, I just wanted to, so you'll read if you want, they give some advice, but basically what they say is by working on some of these, you could save $260 billion in total, so which are easily recoverable by making a few changes. Okay, for example, they give an advice that the average checkout form has 23 elements displayed, so different fields or information that we ask, whereas ideally the ideal checkout flow should be between 12 and 14 elements. So if you reduce by half your checkout process complexity, you can improve by a lot the conversion rate. Okay, and so by applying some of these tips, they say, this study's conclusion is that anybody should be able to get about 35% increase in conversion rates. So that's a huge amount of sales that you could be gaining just by applying a few changes to your checkout process. Okay, so I hope all of this was helpful. We didn't talk about mobile specifically, but the video is already quite long, so maybe I'll do a follow-up video on why mobile conversion rates are so lower than on desktop. And a lot of this has to do with the experience, which is too complex. Maybe forms sometimes are hard to fill on mobile, more frequent errors, crash, or the internet speed, which doesn't allow to have a very heavy web page. And so you have a lot of these things. Maybe it's more difficult to look at prices and to calculate shipping and things like that. So think of mobile in your checkout experience, because the bad experience is the number one reason why you're losing so much conversions on mobile as well. Okay, so if you do that, so not only can you gain almost 1 in 3 conversions more, but if you also apply the advice I gave you 2 days ago in the retargeting video, you can also get a lot more sales back. So I've read another study which said that retargeting can bring back 25% of your visitors back to the website to convert. So if you get 25% back and then you also increase a 35% conversion rate, you're going to make a big jump in terms of sales. So hopefully all of that was helpful. If you want to learn more about how to make all these changes, if you need a more detailed audit of your website, your checkout process, your marketing strategy, your advertising accounts, we'd be super happy to do so with Ad360. To celebrate the recent launch on Shopify, we're offering any new customer a thorough audit and consulting call where we go over all aspects of their online website and business, and we help them fix everything that can be improved, and we help them set up advertising accounts, advertising campaigns, targeting, audiences, choices, so that we convert as much as possible. And if you're interested in having retargeting bring back 25% of your visitors to your website, that's something we can help you get started with. So if you're interested in all of that, I suggest you book a call with us. There is a link in the description below where you can pick a time in the calendar and have a call with our team, and we'll go through everything, show you what you can do better on your website, and we'll show you how Ad360 can help you increase your sales. I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to be alerted when I release new videos. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.